Every time I put glasses on, I'm just reminded about how much detail there is in the world. Alright, so it's Sunday the 26th of September. Yesterday I made a new piece of artwork. It kind of happened accidentally, although that's how all my artwork happens nowadays anyway, because I don't plan to make artwork anymore. It just happens. I was playing around with 3D Coat and their sculpting toolset because I used to use that quite a lot actually. It's got a much better sculpting toolset in terms of like the actual flow of stuff than Blender. And that's mostly because of its like really high detail voxel sculpting system. So you don't have weird kind of polygons kind of overlapping and doing odd stuff when you try and make like tight areas. It's really fun to work with. And one of the brushes in particular kind of simulates wet clay, which is really, really nice. But for a bit of fun, I was kind of making like a new rigged based character model for my pack. And then I just ended up going a bit abstract with it and just shoved it into Blender and started having some fun. So I was thinking about doing one of those kind of typical, maybe semi-boring videos about here's some resources for building a great portfolio and try and do that in an entertaining way, but maybe now I'll try and set myself the challenge of doing an art breakdown video in the new format, which I haven't tried doing yet. So yes, but at the same time I have a build-up of tasks written down on my notepads and like emails and stuff saying, oh, do this, do that, and I've been putting them off, so maybe today is a task cleanup day. We'll see. Oh boy, aren't you lucky I've brought you along to the most boring part of any project that I have going right now. And that's code approvals for EasyBPY, the code module, to simplify the use of the Blender API in Blender. But you know, while I'm here, why don't I make it a bit more interesting while I'm trying to work by talking about something. So yes, this may be a bit of a selfish exercise, I don't know. So what I have is a collection of text files, and one .py file is just text, or things that I need to add to the module. So let me put them up here in Visual Studio Code. These are contributed by two people, JYoshi and null pointer exception is I think the username for the other one at the moment. Because this module is not just made by me. What I have here is I have a changelog, and whenever people make changes, then I basically add their names in and write them down, like what stuff they've added. But I'm gonna need to get into a state of mind here where I'm doing the work. If I stop and explain it, then I won't be able to do it, but I want to talk about something else at the same time, so that needs to go on autopilot. So what am I going to talk about? It's going to be a bit of a weird rant, but you know what one of my pet peeves is? When people say, just be yourself. And I kind of get the idea behind it. It's like, oh, you know, don't change yourself for anyone. You know, you shouldn't have to follow people around or just copy everyone else or try and impress people too much. And yeah, I get the principle behind that, and I think it makes a lot of sense in school, especially. Oh my god, oh my god, chameleon personalities is what I call them in school. I hate them so much. People that have no idea what they like, but their entire persona is just defined by what other people liked, so they thought that they should like it as well. Oh, I cannot get on with people like that. But anyway, yeah, what I mean is, like, I think there's an upper limit to it. I think it just buries into people's heads the idea that you are one person and only one person throughout your entire life, and that's been decided when you're like 10 years old. Like, oh, just be yourself, you know. It means be true to yourself, yeah, I get it, but like when you get to like a certain stage when you're older, and even on the dating scene and stuff like that, it's like, okay, well, you as a person, your personality is defined and constructed by every experience that you have every single day, right? And it's wrong, I think, to assume that, hold on, do we already have these constraint functions, or was there changes? Sorry, just holding the rant for a sec, because this requires more of my mental capacity now. Follow, track, add camera, name, con name. Even the spaces are the same, so that must have been copy pasted, right? Yeah, you are changing all the time in ways that you may not even realize. Sure, there's like a kind of baseline personality, but if you're not changing all the time, then I think that's a bad thing. You're kind of closed off and you're not changing your ideas as you go through your life. And when you think about people, especially in like nowadays, the whole political space of the world, people being so closed-minded and attracted to like conspiratorial ideas and stuff, and we can look at those people and complain and say, they're not really taking on board, the empirical evidence, and they're not changing their minds. How are they so locked into something? But I bet you, like, still a lot of people that say that are the kinds of people that even themselves are resistant to change and changing ideas. I just think that the whole just be yourself thing isn't properly thought out, because a human being is an adaptive thing. It changes all the time. And like one of the most fundamental things about relationships, even like on a personal level, on a tribal level, on a societal level, is compromising on what you want individually for the sake of something better, for the greater good of the whole or whatever. So I feel like I'd prefer the term to be something like just be yourself within reason, but be open to change. Also, like, it's just not realistic in a lot of situations, especially with like our line of work, because people don't want you to be yourself, like on YouTube. No way. Like, some people will. Some of the nice people, more likely the people watching this video, because there's only a few people that watch these. I'm just basically at the moment going to delete the things that aren't required from both files. Yeah, but if you are yourself, because I am so subject to changing my interests, like my channel will be a different thing every single day if it was under my control. In fact, actually, the content you're watching now would be on the main channel if it was entirely under my own discretion, right? And maybe we can get there one day, probably not anytime soon, but the channel would be dead in the water, I think, if I was just being myself. From the business perspective, I guess it's part of my responsibility to not entirely be myself and to instead take on board what other people want, because, supply and demand, I suppose. But supply and demand is, I think, or it has become a weird concept in the social world as well, like social media. People know what other people like to see, and people want to display what other people want to see. I want to sell what you're buying. That's a lyric from one of Lil Nas X's new tracks, which I thought actually made a lot of sense here. People want to put on a facade. Just be yourself. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I'm so authentic. Oh, they're such an authentic personality. No one is. No one knows who they are. No one knows who they are, and they're changing all the time in ways that they may not even realize. Even the act of getting into an argument with someone, if they said, oh, you've changed, and they're like, oh, I haven't changed, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, that argument itself would literally change people. The butterfly effect, man. It applies to everything. Sorry, this is a very weird rant and probably completely pointless, because everyone would be like, oh yeah, no, it's obviously you shouldn't take it literally. It's just one of my little pet peeves. Okay, so look, we've already got most of these functions. Add limit, distance constraint, got that, location, rotation, scale, fine. Okay, so transformation constraint is a convenience function, I guess. I just want to make sure if there was anything missed out that don't forget to add it. Stretch to constraint, track action, armature child, floor follow, pivot string ramp. Okay, that's fine. Those are already in there, so we don't need to add them. Alright, moving on to shape keys. But speaking about the idea of like knowing who you are and stuff, one thing I do find really interesting, a little bit concerning maybe as well, is how people like, they find, maybe this is just displaying how weird I am, right? But people find one thing and then they make that their entire personality. And that can be anything. It could be like a video game, it could be like Vikings or witchcraft or, furries. And I don't have a problem with like any of those things individually whatsoever. The thing that kind of confuses me is that when one thing can become your entire lifestyle, like, and that's it, that's literally the end of it. Like, well, I like this thing, full stop, that's who I am. Like, if that gives someone comfort, I think that's fine, that's perfectly fine. It's nice to have a sense of identity, I suppose. But like, if you've made that your entire personality, I guess it's a rhetorical question, but it's also an authentic one, because I kind of want to know, because I don't understand. If you made something like that your entire personality, does it make you less likely or less open to trying new things? Is it like you've put yourself in a box and that's it? Does that make you less likely to pick up new ideas? Is there like a correlation between obsessing over one thing and then being like politically closed off in one area? I'm asking, I don't know. I'd like to know. Okay, so I've just checked to see if we have shape key functions, and we don't. Shape keys by themselves would probably be a nice section to add, so maybe we can do that. Maybe under vertex groups and before particle systems, I guess that makes sense, because it's kind of mesh related. Added section shape keys. But yeah, no, it's weird. It's just something to think about. Because again, it's like I meet and I talk to a lot of people, and I've been paying attention to who I get on with better than other people. And again, you know, in relation to dating, that's been quite eye-opening. I don't get on too well with people that narrow themselves into one specific interest. And I think part of that is to do with because, well, it's just boring. It's difficult to get a feeling that there's more to someone's personality if their entire personality revolves around one thing. Like, what can you talk about? But it's more than that, because I think it also, in some cases, I guess it's a bit of a generalization. For me, I feel like in some cases it kind of shows that that person is not intellectually engaged with the wider world. If you put yourself in one box, and you're not open to experiences, and you're not open to kind of experimenting with maybe other hobbies or other ideas and stuff, then you're kind of just closed off from discussion about certain things or debate, or maybe you're limited in an emotional way. I don't know, it's just, it never resonated with me. But then again, I did that Big 5 personality test a while back, and I like that one because it's not like, oh, you answered this and this, therefore this means that you have a definitive value of this, and that means that you like this, this, and this. Now the Big 5 one was interesting because it's like it separates generalized human behavior into, I think, like 10 categories, like 2 for each of the 5 kind of major categories. So there'll be things like neuroticism, conscientiousness, industrialness, and openness to experience, withdrawal, and stuff like that. And instead of being like, okay, well, here's your definitive value from 0 to 1, it'll be like, well, compared to everyone else that took this test, on average, you are in this percentile when compared to everyone else. So I like that. It's not like a definitive, mathematically precise thing. It's just like, okay, here's the general result of everyone that's ever been pulled for this test, and this is where you rank on an average. And I think that's a much better way to kind of categorize personality differences. And something that did spike up from that test, and again, like, I guess take personality tests with like a pinch of salt or a grain of salt, whatever the saying is. But one thing that did spike up that I was interested in was I apparently had an exceptionally high degree of openness to experience, which made sense. And I think to me it kind of explains why, as I've said so many times on the channel, like, I cannot invest myself into one thing for too long a time, like intellectually speaking. It's why I can't do the same job for like more than a week, because I will get so bored and anxious and jittery and want to try something new. It's also why I have trouble sticking to formulas on the main YouTube channel. Like, even though they do well and you know what you need to do to expand the YouTube channel, because I'm going to be honest, it's not that difficult to think of what to do for the YouTube channel if you want to grow. You pick a hot topic in the community, something that you know your audience have already liked, you give it some stupidly eccentric title and a nice thumbnail with your face, you pick a hot topic about it, and so there's like an inverse property. It's like, the less effort you put into a video, the better it does. Massive caveats to that, massive caveats. But that seems to be the trend. You will do better on YouTube talking about things that other people have made, rather than making things yourself. Why? Because it saves you time and investment, you can make more things over the months. If you comply to the same formula again and again and again, you'll do fine. But the thing is, it's boring as all hell. To me anyway. So that's why I like to throw in things that are a bit out of left field every now and again. Because I don't want to be that guy that, oh, and I know some people like this as well. It's just like one big rant. I hate people that have made Silicon Valley their entire personality again. It's like, it's the same thing again. It's like someone that's made one thing their entire personality. People that have made business their entire personality are so obnoxious in this space, because they measure absolutely everything that's ever made and ever put on anyone's channels as, yeah, that was a bad business decision, oh yeah, this was good, this was bad, yeah, oh, this didn't rank quite as well as this, and like comparing things. And I know people have done it looking at my channel as well, and I'm just like, go away. I hate it, can't stand it. Not everything has to be business related. Can't some things just be emotional or purposeless or purposeful? Not everything has to be this hyper calculated thing, and I do not want to be that guy that gets to like my 70s still having the YouTube channel being like, yes, the entire thing was a perfectly calculated business exercise. Now I will write a book explaining to people how to be good at business, and this just sounds horrid, absolutely horrid. If there's no personality, if there's no culture, then what's the point? It's like how I think about wars and stuff, right? If a nation has like no culture, no feeling, just raw, industrious efficiency with no variation and no freedom, then what are you fighting for? What's the point? The universe will ultimately end in a heat death, so what's the point of just making things as ruthless and efficient and boring as possible? There is a sense of purposelessness to reality, I feel like. And in that, I think there's a beauty in expressing absurdism and strangeness and weirdness and being a bit eccentric and actually, like, why wouldn't you explore the potential of how feelings can go and strangeness? Not everything has to be so rigid and focused and business and optimized. And if you have one life, then why confine yourself to one specific interest and pretend to be like the best in the world at that thing? Why not explore more things? And I don't want to give like the weird impression that, oh, you know, if you can't commit to one interest, and how can you commit to like a person, for example? And that's simply not true. And I know that's not true, and I don't have to prove that to anyone. And I think it's a strong misconception that just because someone is intellectually curious about abso-freaking-lutely everything that they lay their eyes on, in terms of like subjects and fields and information and skills and like whatever, that they can't commit to something, and that's wrong. Alright, add shape key. The name should be the first property. Should it be? Or should the ref be the first property? Maybe we'll give it a default name, but then again, that wouldn't make sense. So one of the things I have to do here is decide what order the arguments go in. So when someone does write the function, you technically, this is going to be very weird for people that like have no Python experience whatsoever. So a function is something you can call that makes something happen, but in the brackets after the function, you can like give it some extra settings if you like. And sometimes you have to refer to those settings by name, like name equals this. But if you provide those settings in the right order that they're written in originally, then you don't have to refer to them by name. So you can literally just put like the name in instead of saying name equals this. But I think having the ref second should be okay with this. Usually we put the ref first though in other functions, but I guess we could always change that, and I'll probably need to test these as well. All right, so let me make a note of these in the changelog, and these were Yoshi's functions, I believe. You know, funny thing is like this whole rant, I'm not sure if I'm going to put this on YouTube, to be honest, because I don't usually get this in depth with my opinions about things. I guess because I don't really speak that much about them alone, kind of by myself. But I know that if I'm not doing something else while kind of doing this work, then I will not get it done at all, because I will be procrastinating and putting it off and doing something that's more interesting. Okay, so I need to make a note here to test the shape key functions. I'll write that down on my paper. All right, maybe it's time to close off this segment. Okay, look, you and I both know that I should be testing those EasyBPY functions, but you and I both also know that it's time for Tetris. I promise I play more games than Tetris, honestly. It's just the easiest one for me to kind of quickly play and then edit into a video. I play a lot of Destiny too, but I think that's a bit of a harder one to show. But let's see if we can get through this level then. I'm already feeling slower, like, compared to how I usually play, so I have a bad feeling about this. Maybe that's because I've, like, burnt out my brain today or something. Oh, damn it. Damn it. Already making a mistake. I feel like I need to try and clear out these lines as quick as I can. Oh, it's already been messed. Oh no. Oh, that just ruined my only chance back in. Yep, there might have been a way back down, but that was not it. Okay, tell you what, I'm gonna go and play one of the earlier ones. I'm gonna go play my favorite level actually. And it's a shame you won't be able to hear the music. Ritual Passion, love this one. It's just like such a powerful vibe, very fiery. This is satisfying. Where it gets a bit more fun and you got like the kind of people in the background there made out of particles doing their little ritual dance. This one's just a vibe. I remember when I first played this level I thought, wow, this is so fast, man, how am I going to finish this? But then compared to the last level it's just so tame. There we go. Cool stuff. Nice to actually finish a level. D, that's how fantastic I am. Completely professional. Probably very cringy to like anyone who's actually good at Tetris watching.